Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here at the Cannes Film Festival. It's time to review A Hero. This is the latest film from director Asghar Farhadi, two-time foreign language film Oscar winner, and one of the most consistent filmmakers today, also one of the most renowned filmmakers from around the globe. With each film, Asghar Farhadi creates a narrative propelled by truths, lies, half-truths, misunderstandings, and muddy intentions. It's actually impressive that he sticks so hard to telling these kinds of stories, and yet every time he makes a new film, he is able to explore new ideas on some level. The more obscure the morality in his stories becomes, the more he's able to unravel about human behavior. And A Hero gives you exactly this. Asghar Farhadi, again, is playing to his strengths here. This one's about a man who, just after being released from prison for owing a debt, does a good deed that impresses those in the town, and he becomes idolized on the news. And the angle that makes this film a little unique from other works that he's done is that it deals a lot in the shape that this man's story takes in the eyes of the public. Our protagonist stands to gain a lot from having a good public image in this film so that he doesn't go back to prison. And so the presence of the public's view of him in this movie is really important. And sometimes for our protagonist to get people to accept the truth that is within his story, it may require him to tell a white lie. Though the movie doesn't really show people using their phones or have any screen montages, it does seem to comment really well on how passing something around over the internet or social media can obscure the truth. It shows how if somebody's held up as a hero, they become more of a standard and less of a human being, and it's hard for people to accept nuance. If caught in just one lie, that person's reputation could be tarnished, even if there's truth in the story. And it reminded me of internet drama in a way, where someone's always going to have to make another response video, and then there's going to be a response video to that. And even though the intention of each response video is to clear things up, it only ends up making things more complicated and more messy. It was really impressive how Asghar Farhadi was able to capture that, which is something that feels so true about the internet. And yet he's really sticking to a story that feels like it's just about a guy in his town with his peers around him. Our protagonist is played by Amir Jadidi, and what makes his performance stand out is he's always got this little smirk. He seems like the kind of person who would try to diffuse a situation rather than escalate, and you definitely buy him as an honest person who's trying to do the right thing. And in many ways he is that, but as the movie goes on, you see how he's even somewhat unsure of the fate or the karma that he deserves. The rest of the cast is also very good, but this movie, in comparison to some of his others, feels a little less like an ensemble piece. It's really more about this one character, and the story itself might even be simpler than his other films. There's really this central scenario that the entire thing is revolving around, and the truth is getting obscured about this one incident and how other people are perceiving it. But it doesn't really throw in a ton of twists and turns and new information that's going to flip the narrative on its head, which you sometimes get in some of his other films. I don't know if this feels like it had as strong of an emotional core as something like The Past or A Separation. But in many ways, it's about as intellectually engaging. Maybe it's just slightly not as memorable as his best work, although I do really like it overall, and it has that juicy moral ambiguity that you like in an Asghar Farhadi film. So he really delivers on what he does best here. Now there's a lot of talk, is this going to be the Parasite of this year? Is Farhadi going to get his Bong Joon-ho moment where he breaks into the Oscars, maybe gets a director nomination or something? After all, this movie was picked up by Amazon Studios, and so they could run a campaign if they want to. But I think that due to Farhadi's style being so familiar now for people, maybe this one doesn't stand out enough from his other work where he can pull off something like another screenplay nomination or a director nomination. It seems like generally some critics do think that it's among his best work, but it's not getting the same kind of rave reviews as other films that he's done, especially A Separation. But if this movie wins the Palm and has that kind of buzz around it, maybe Amazon could campaign it and use that Palm win to say, look at this, it's Parasite. Maybe they could run an okay campaign for it. I'm not going to say it's impossible for the movie to get screenplay or director. I think it's unlikely, and as someone who would love to see Asghar Farhadi get nominated for director, this wasn't quite the masterpiece that I think maybe it has to be for him to get in that conversation. If it's submitted, it'll most certainly get another nomination in International Feature. It could be a real competitor to win. I honestly wonder how long he can get away making movies about secrets and lies. I mean, he's still going really strong, and it's impressive that he's even lasted this many films operating around those same themes that have been quality. But I do think that if he was going to reach those heights of a separation, he might have to break out of that a little bit more. Overall, this was yet another really strong film from Asghar Farhadi. I'm not quite there with a 9, but an 8 feels a little light, so we're going with an 8.5. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Why are you a hero?